Hello everybody, and welcome back to What Does Jesus Teach? Today we're continuing in the series of Anti-Once Saved Always Saved teachings from Jesus and focusing on the parable of the 10 virgins today. And as always, and again, if you like these teachings, hit the like button, it helps, subscribe if you're not, and share it with as many people as possible so we can get more truth out there. Awesome. Alright, so there are two common claims made by once saved, always saved believers regarding the teaching of the parable of the 10 virgins. One is it's not related to the rapture of the church at all, so it doesn't really matter. And two is this is indeed about being prepared for the rapture, but the foolish virgins were never saved due to never having any oil in their lamp in the first place. The idea here is that the oil represents the Holy Spirit, and since they never had oil, it means they were never actually saved. Alright, so we're going to take a look at both of these claims as we walk through the entire piece, and I'll point them out as we go along. Alright, so let's first remember that the New Testament originally was not written with chapters and verses. Jesus taught us, regarding his return for the church, then provided an analogy in how to recognize when his return was near, taught the exact day and hour is unknown, taught us to be alert, taught what happens to a person who is faithful or unfaithful, then got into the teachings about the 10 virgins, followed by the parable of the talents. So you can see in the scriptures that I have listed here, I kind of went from Matthew 24 when he talks about his return, and kind of chronologically as he kind of went through it in the verses all the way until after the 10 virgins, you can see that the parable of 10 virgins is surrounding regarding language of the return of Jesus, be alert, be ready, and then it continues even to the parable afterwards. So the context, the immediate context for sure, it has to do with the return of Christ and being ready for his return for the church. Again, language of unknown day and hour, things of that nature are all included in Matthew 24. So this is indeed about preparation for the rapture, for sure. Now let's get into the parable directly. Matthew 25, 1-2 says, "Then the kingdom of heaven will be comparable to 10 virgins, who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them foolish, and 5 of them are prudent." Again, Jesus showing a teaching about the 10 virgins. All 10 of them are virgins, just that 5 of them foolish, 5 prudent, but they all went to go meet the bridegroom. So all 10 are in expectation of when the bridegroom arrives, representative of Jesus, they get to go meet with him and go with them. So let's get a visual. Alright, so we had the 5 prudent virgins on the left. They went to go meet the groom. And the 5 foolish virgins on the right. And they also went to go meet the groom. So they're kind of heading out together. Now, verse 3-4 say, "For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. But the prudent took oil and flask along with their lamps." Alright, so when all 10 virgins left, 5 did not leave prepared by taking oil. The other 5 prepared by putting oil in their flask. And that's not, again, just to be clear, that's not that they put oil in the lamp, they put oil in their flask and took it with them. So that's like in today's language, it's like taking a spare battery charger for your phone. Your phone has a charge already, but at some point your battery's going to run out when you're using it. So if you brought a spare charger, you can recharge your phone when the battery runs low. This is what the 5 wise virgins did. The ones that were prudent took that flask, same thing as a battery charger, like a portable battery charger. So when the oil ran out at some point, they could refill the oil from that flask. The 5 foolish virgins did not take that flask with them. Now, to be clear, that does not answer the question as to whether all 10 virgins had existing oil in their lamps already or not. It's just right now talking about some took the flask, the battery charger for the lamp, and the other 5 did not. Again, doesn't answer the question yet. Alright, again, getting a visual. So the 5 prudent virgins on the left, see they brought their flask of oil. The 5 foolish virgins on the right did not take their flask of oil. So that's all we know so far. Continuing with the parable. "Now while the bridegroom was delaying, they all got drowsy and began to sleep. But at midnight there was a shout, 'Behold, the bridegroom! Come out to meet him!' Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps." So now we have a little more information. So while waiting for the groom, or the groom finally arrives, all 10 virgins trimmed their lamps on the way to meet him. Now, to be clear, trimming your lamps means to cause it to burn brighter. The virgins were sleeping, so all their lamps were on, but just at a lower level. That's like having like a night light, and when you get up, you turn on the main light of the room. So they had their lamps at like a night light version, if you will, just a very low level so they could see if they need to get up in the middle of the night, but not so bright as to light up the room. But obviously, once they announced the bridegroom, all 10 of them turned up the level of the lamps, so because they're going to head out from where they were sleeping and then go meet him. So the lamps are already on. It's just they turned them brighter to trim the lamp. All right. So continuing on, let's see. We had the 5 prudent virgins on the left again, now heading to the bridegroom, and the 5 foolish virgins also heading to the bridegroom. Again, because he's delayed, they had to wait while sleeping. Again, they announced they're all heading in his direction. And of course, they all 10 trimmed their lamps from where they were, and they're heading in that direction. All right. Doesn't say how far away he is, but apparently nearby somewhere. They're on their way. Continuing the parable, the foolish, the virgins, said to the prudent, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the prudent answered, "No, there will not be enough for us and you too. Go instead to the dealers and buy some for yourselves." So now we have the answer to the question. Here we see, as all 10 went to meet the groom, the 5 foolish ones are asking the prudent ones for some of their oil because their lamps are starting to go out. The other 5, being prudent, told them to buy their own oil because there was not enough for both groups. Right here, we can see that the foolish virgins did indeed have oil in their lamps previously, but they just didn't bring the extra flask to keep enough oil for the lamp to stay on. Again, it's very obvious here. I have it highlighted in red. The lamps are going out. If there was never any oil, the lamps would have never turned on in the first place. They wouldn't have been able to trim the lamps to, increase the amount of light at all, because if there was never any oil, it would have never been on in the first place. You can't trim a lamp that's not turned on. You can only trim a lamp that's already on to turn brighter, or lower it to, lower the light levels. But obviously, as they trimmed it, it's burning brighter. There's not enough oil. And the foolish virgin's light is starting to dim out because it's running out of oil. So they definitely had, all 10 had oil. It's just the other 5 took additional reserves of oil in that flask, like the battery charger, so they'd have enough to continue as they waited. All right, let's get a visual here. Okay, so the 5 prudent virgins, they have plenty of oil and went directly to the groom. But over here on the right, the 5 foolish virgins, they didn't have enough oil, so they had to detour to the store. And they had to go make a pit stop, go to the store for some oil. All right? Continue with the parable. It says, "And while they were going away to make the purchase, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with them to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. Later the other virgins also came, saying, 'Lord, Lord, open up for us.' But he answered, 'Truly I say to you, I do not know you.'" Okay, that's the end of the parable. Verse 13 then shows Jesus kind of giving his interpretation. "Be on the alert, for you do not know what day, so you do not know the day nor the hour." Again, the day nor the hour of what? All right, so let's, let me pause it for a second. All right, so while the 5 foolish virgins went out to buy oil, the groom came, the 5 prudent virgins went to the feast of the groom, and by the time the 5 foolish ones arrived, it was too late. They were told they were unknown, denied entrance. They were denied entrance into the wedding feast. Even though they were virgins, they had oil in their lamps, it just simply ran out. They didn't keep themselves ready on the alert. All right. Again, Jesus gives us the explanation of the parable, which is that we need to be on alert. But then he says you don't know the day or the hour. Well, again, if somebody said, well, this isn't about the rapture, well, here's that language again. You don't know the day or the hour. Same topic. So let's look at this closely. All right. Again, so in Matthew 24, we have the return of Christ, recognizing the period. But here we go. Again, this day and hour language in 36 to 41. In verse 42, the day and hour of his return. Again, so we're seeing the same language over and over again. So when we get to the parable of the 10 virgins, not knowing the day of the hour of what? Day of hour of his return. The unknown day and hour, after recognizing the seasonality of it in the verses here in between. So They obviously, again, 5 were not ready for the day and the hour. 5 of them were. Okay. But again, this all has to do with being ready for the current coming of Christ. All 10 virgins, all 10 had oil. 5 just didn't carry preparations all the way to the end. 5 did, 5 not. And 5 did not. So let's get that visual now. All right, so on the left side again, 5 prudent virgins, bridegroom arrives, they have plenty of oil, went straight to him, they were ready to go. They went to the wedding feast. The feast began with the 5 prudent virgins, the door was shut down to everyone else. The 5 foolish virgins, not enough oil, so they had to detour to the store. And what happened? They were told, nope, can't come in. They were denied entry. All 10 had lamps, all 10 virgins, all 10 had oil. But only 5 brought the extra so they could be prepared while they wait. The foolish ones figured, I have enough and that's all I need, and apparently it was not enough. Many once saved, always saved teachers will suggest that the 5 foolish virgins were never saved and never had oil, and those lamps is a way to prove once saved, always saved still stands. Again, as we saw in verse 7 and 8, all 10 trimmed their lamps. Trimming again doesn't mean turning on, it means turning up the flame that already existed. No oil, no flame. In addition, verse 8 shows that the lamps are going out. If this once saved, always saved claim were true, it would say our lamps won't turn on. But it didn't. It said our lamps are going out. As we can see, if we accept the plain words of Jesus, all 10 were virgins, all 10 had lamps turned on, but only 5 were prepared by taking additional oil needed during the delay of the Lord's return. If once saved, always saved were true, all 10 would have been allowed in since they were all virgins and they all had burning lamps with them. Don't be deceived. We must all be prepared, remain prepared for the Lord's return. Again, remain prepared so you're not shut out at the end, like the 5 foolish virgins. With that being said, God bless you. Have a great day. Bye.